Hello everyone, my name is Stanley St. Rose, and today we're going to be talking about A White Heron, written by Orne Jewett. Now, before I go into summary analysis of this work, please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and or comment so that the channel can continue to grow. So, at the beginning of this short story, we're introduced to this little girl by the name of Sylvia. Sylvia just loves nature. She knows the woods like the back of her hand. She communicates with animals. She communicates with her cow. At the beginning of the short story, she's pretty much wandering around in the woods with this cow, and in her mind, she's playing hide and go seek with this cow. Frogs love her, birds love her. The natural worlds love her, and she loves it. It's pretty much, she's isolated by herself. She pretty much doesn't have any much friends. We're not even, no friends are depicted within this short story. Let's say that. But she's pretty much isolated. She's by herself. She's living with her grandmother Tilly, and we learned that the entire family loves the outdoors. The entire family loves nature. They love exploring. They love seeing the natural beauties of the world. So Sylvia is just this wonderful kid. She's enjoying herself. She's coming from the city. She used to live in the city. Now she lives in rural Maine with her grandmother. And everything is wonderful. She's just enjoying her time and enjoying nature. Pretty much this hunter comes along and ruins everything, This hunter comes along and he offers Sylvia $10 to help him find this white heron. Now, we're told that this white heron is this rare bird, and you can't find it that easily. And pretty much this is very significant because Sylvia, this individual who loves nature, her grandmother loves nature, she's been given money to betray her values, to betray the things that she loves. And that says a lot about human character. That says a lot about us as human beings, because a lot of times people give up their values, give up the things that they're committed to because of money, because of power, because of wealth. If the price is right enough. In this case, Sylvia gets offered $10 to help this hunter find this white heron. And again, this is a little child. $10 to a child is a lot of money, and so especially during the time this piece was written, $10 was worth more than what it is now. So Sylvia, she thinks about this. But the thing is, we have to keep in mind that this hunter is in a position of power because he's a stranger, and the short story Orne Jewett makes sure to keep calling him stranger. This is not a person that is invited. This is a person that just barges in, because not only does this hunter ask Sylvia to help him find this bird and tries to pay Sylvia to help him find this bird, he asks for lodging, and Sylvia has no choice because this individual is taller than her. This individual has a gun. For hunting, of course. He doesn't use the gun against her, but he's in a position of power. And so the cow, Sylvia, the hunter, they go back to Sylvia's house, and the mood's kind of a tense mood. The grandmother Tilly, there's a really interesting line within the short story about her, that her hospitality was, rose in her, right? Because she wasn't expecting to be a host. She wasn't expecting to have a place prepared for this man who's a hunter. He just showed up at her house asking for a place to sleep. And this is not a hotel. This is not an inn. This is not a public business place. It's this woman's house. And this man just comes in. They don't know this man. He's a stranger. He's like, "Can I sleep here? I'll go in the morning, but can I sleep at your house?" And he has a gun, and he's saying, "I'm trying to hunt this bird, and I want Sylvia to help me." And so, in my perspective, I think that the grandmother and Sylvia kind of have to say yes, because, how do you say no in that circumstance? Because this is in rural Maine. It doesn't seem like, there are people they can call to come and help. If they say no, things can turn. In my own perspective, I think they say yes because, yes, they want to be nice, they want to be hospitable, but at the same time, it's an old lady and this young little girl. You want to keep everything below a boiling point, right? So this young man, he stays over, he stays for the night, and the grandmother, she pretty much just spills all of the family jewels, she spills all of the family secrets. She talks about Sylvia and how Sylvia just knows the woods and knows nature, and how every bird, every creature just loves Sylvia. And this young hunter, he's like listening, and he's like, oh, so you're saying that Sylvia knows the woods, huh? You're saying that Sylvia knows birds, huh? Okay. Well, I'm gonna focus on Sylvia. I'm gonna pay attention to Sylvia. And so the grandmother kind of she puts Sylvia on the hot spot a little bit. So this young man, he sleeps over. They feed him. And Sylvia, while everybody's at home, she goes out to find this white heron. She explores for a while by herself, and then eventually she finds this big tree, and she's like, maybe if I climb this tree, I can figure out where this bird is. Maybe I can find it. So she climbs this tree, and the imagery and the wording that is used to describe this pretty much intertwining of Sylvia and this tree is very significant, because Sylvia is a small child. She's not that heavy. She's climbing this tree with all her might. She's it's intense. It's passionate. There's the spirit of adventure, the spirit of exploration. For me, I call Sylvia Curious George within this short story, because she's curious about the world. And just like how all children are curious about the world and understanding it, Sylvia is curious. And she's climbing this tree, and all of the living things on this tree are kind of like making a way for Sylvia. And also, it's kind of like it's helping. They're helping Sylvia. It's almost like the tree itself is helping Sylvia. The wording that is used to describe this interaction between this tree and Sylvia is pretty much like, her heart was pumping, her small heart was pumping, and the limbs of the tree were just, helping her along, and she held this tree tight, hugging it, crawling up the tree. And it didn't seem like the tree was trying to sway. It's almost like the tree was trying to stay completely and utterly still to help this little child climb up. And that's just beautiful itself. And this tree, it's not just like any other tree. It's the tallest tree in the woods. It's been there for a very, very long time. It's the one tree that survived, men cutting trees down. We're told all of this, and there's a lot of things living in the tree. And Sylvia finally makes it to the top, and she sees everything. She sees the sun coming up. She sees the birds, creatures. She sees bodies of water. She sees ships. She sees cities and towns. She sells seashells down by the seashore. Okay, so she sees all of that, all of the things in for miles and miles away. She sees all of that, and Sylvia is just taking all in, right? She's exploring the world. She's letting her eyeballs just roll over everything and just observe everything and view everything. And she spots the white heron, and she looks at it. She thinks about flying with it. It's almost like she wants to be the white heron. It's almost like the white heron represents Sylvia, because this is an animal that's free to explore, that's free to be itself, that's free to do whatever it wants. And Sylvia is has the same spirit, the same drive. And she doesn't tell the hunter about the white heron. The white heron remains free, and Sylvia takes a breath of the world in, and she remembers that experience of standing on top of that tree and really seeing the world and seeing nature at a very significant point, or level. So, Sylvia ends up going back home. She's muddy, she's dirty. The hunter knows that Sylvia knows about the white heron, and he kind of pushes her to tell him the story, or what she saw. But Sylvia, stays true to her values. She stays true to nature. She doesn't give up nature for personal wealth, for that $10. She stays true to herself. and basically the hunter goes away. Nothing happens to the family. He takes his gun, he takes his belongings, he goes away. By the way he reacts, and by the thought process that was going on in his head, I guess you can say that Sylvia might see him again because he's a hunter, and she's she's exploring the woods. She loves the woods. They might cross paths again one day, but at least we know that Sylvia, even at a young age, she didn't give up her values. She didn't give up her animals. She didn't give up her life, and her ability to explore, and her ability to just fall in love with nature. And that's very significant. Now, let's talk about the ideas, the concepts that appear, the analysis portion of this short story. Now, the thing is, Sylvia is very young. When you're a child, when you're very young, you might be able to keep hold of your values, of your beliefs longer, or maybe you might not value money as much. Because the thing is, like, I feel like if Sylvia was an adult, if Sylvia was, if the price was higher and much more, more money was offered, some people would help the hunter track down the bird for money. A lot of people in the human world, a lot of people would give up their values for wealth, for power, for material goods. So the fact that she's a child, I think that helped her make her decision. She loved nature more at that point than her own personal gain. And maybe there are some people still in the world that would value their principles, and their that would value the things that they love, the things that they explore more than wealth and power and prestige. Because a lot of people would take that $10. A lot of kids would take that $10 for the bird. But Sylvia doesn't, so that says a lot. The other thing is that goes on that's very important within the short story is the comparison between city life and nature. Now, the thing about of nature is that human beings, we often think ourselves away from nature because we've built cities, civilization, buildings, houses. I mean, our houses have heat in them. They have air conditioners. They have they have lighting. Everything we need is in the house. I mean, today in the 21st century, if you live in a first world country, you could literally never leave your house because everything can be brought to you. You can buy everything online and have it all brought to you indoors. So pretty much we've literally taken ourselves out of the idea of being in nature or living in nature, because literally most of us, I mean, we spend most of our time indoor anyway. I mean, think about it. If you work in an office, if you work indoors, you work indoors, and then you go home and you sleep and socialize indoors. For most things, we do indoors. The only time that we spend outside is when we plan it, schedule it, or we're trying to get from point A to point B. So most of our lives in the modern world today, it's spent indoors. So Sylvia is this kid that she doesn't want anything to do with city life. She's not as happy there, but in the woods, in the wilderness, she gets to explore herself. I mean, she knows the woods and the wilderness. Even in the dark, she can navigate her way around the wilderness. She loves animals, and that says a lot about who she is, her character, her principles, and just how smart this little kid is. The same thing for the family, because we're told that the family loves nature. Even the grandmother Tilly, she wanted to go explore the world more. So it's been in the family. It runs in the blood. The hunter, here's another thing that's extremely interesting is that the hunter, Sylvia, and the grandmother, they all love nature. It's just they express it differently. Sylvia and the grandmother, they want to see it. They want to breathe it in. They want to be a part of it. While the hunter wants to kill it, stuff it, and put it on its wall because he's an ornithologist. He's all about that type of he adores nature, he likes nature, but he likes the game of it, the hunt of it. It's more of a hunt, of a game, of a rewards type of thing, rather than enjoying it and being a part of it. Sylvia is more exploration and adventure and just taking it all in, right? So that's very significant. So this short story is very fascinating. It really brings us back to nature. There's a lot of writings that do this, but in this work you see nature and innocence side to side, because nature especially in the eyes of a kid, it's much more glamorous, much more there's much more adventure there. When you're an adult, you're only thinking about bugs and things getting in your way, and you don't have the comforts of your house. So it's seen more. It's more glamorous through the eyes of a child, especially the way that it's described. The imagery and the trees in the wilderness is described. It's just much more powerful through the eyes of a child. So this short story, very important, very significant. Those are my thoughts on it. That's what I had to say about it. Please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and or comment, and I'll see you guys in my next video.